We're going to get started. I think I've done enough of that here, so I don't know if I can do the entire. This is heavy. This is ridiculously heavy. So we'll get started right now. So first of all, welcome. My name's Larry Herb, Xbox Live's Major Nelson. I work on the Xbox team. I always want to thank you. Oh, look at you guys. I was on the team that shipped the Xbox 360 and Xbox Live. I've been with the team for about 10 years. And I'm also obviously involved with Xbox One. So very excited to be here. There goes my nameplate. You can keep that if you want, sir. Thank you. We're really excited to be here to talk about Ryse. We're going to go right down. We're going to introduce the panel. We're going to do some Q&A. We're going to show you some stuff that has never been seen before, right, guys?
Yeah, we got a couple things.
All right, so why don't we get started right here with you, Justin?
I'm Justin Roby, senior producer for Microsoft Studios. I'm on multiplayer and then talking about Smartglass and some other stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Justin. Next up we have...
To my left is the best hair of the team.
That would be me, in case you were wondering. I am the cinematic art director and co-writer of Ryse. So I think I actually did some work on it somewhere in there. And with the not so wonderful hair next to me.
Yeah, sort of. It's a competition. My name is Mike Reed. I'm a producer at Crytek. I get involved in a little bit of everything. Sometimes beating up this guy and sometimes Justin, but it's all in good fun.
Yeah. True, very true, very true.
All right, we're gonna get right into it. First of all, guys, thank you for coming over. For those of you who don't know, the game is being developed over there at Crytek, which is over in Germany.
Yep.
So these guys flew in from Germany to answer your questions, have some fun, and take your Q&A. So let's get right to it. Who wants to field the first question? Is where did the idea for Ryse come from? The story, and take us on the journey of the development process there. Who wants to take that one?
How far do you want to go back with that?
If it's all the way to the beginning, Justin.
Wow.
Sorry, Mike.
No, Justin's been on the project longer than anybody.
Longest, that's funny. So I remember what we. Oh. So I remember. It started a while ago, and what happened was that we had Crytek come and pitch the game to us. At the beginning, it was a first-person melee title. And then it eventually became a Kinect-only title, which I think some of you guys saw at E3 around about a year and a half ago when Microsoft started going to thinking about next gen. We had Crytek present to them, hey, what do you guys want to do when you think about next gen? And I don't know, many of you guys have played the Crysis games, I hope. Many of you guys might just be sitting in the seat to save your seat for the next panel. That's totally fine too. But these guys are really known for their visual stuff, and so they presented 3 ideas, and it kind of landed on the Roman third-person action game, and that's when Peter took over and can take it from there. So it originally was like a medieval game, and then it became Rome.
Now, how many people have played Crytek games? All right, there you go. He's got some fans out there. Talk a little bit. Who can take care of this one? Tell me a little bit about how controller and Kinect and the decision or the design decision around using those.
Okay. Originally, when we talked about the Xbox 360, Crytek, being known for their tech, really wanted to nail what Kinect for the core meant. They felt as a technology company they could nail that. And then the design decision to move when they wanted to go to a higher visual fidelity and really just nail graphics, feel, and story, they wanted a different approach, and so that's when it went from using Kinect in a way that felt more appealing to how they told the story. And so then it became more of a controller-based game at that juncture.
But there are still Kinect elements in there. Let's talk about what that is, and if you can talk through that a little bit.
Yeah. So we have a couple of interesting things. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later is we actually have Kinect control of Smartglass, which is really interesting. And then Shavat really wanted to have it feel like when you're commanding troops, being that guy who's yelling and saying those things like rally, fire archer. So it's more around the command of your troops, and that's really where the Connect elements, those Connect elements fit in, right? Right, Michael? Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I would say that's probably where it's going to. And then, I mean, over time, I mean, it's not to discount Connect in any way. I mean, if you've seen any of the demos and stuff that Microsoft's been showing off about the Connect specifically and where it's going, I think over time and over the next couple of years anyways, you're going to see those developer kits become a lot more powerful and a lot more Connect integration. But it didn't really go with where we wanted to go with the game, and moving into the next generation with Xbox One, you know, it didn't really fit in with that at that point. So we've integrated that into the game, but at the same point, we didn't want it to feel forced for the gameplay itself.
Yeah, Connect's working right now, and it can tell that my heart rate is going pretty fast, and I'm actually sweating at 20 droplets per second. And if you want to...
It is.
And that's not even playing the game.
That's not even playing the game. Yeah.
That's normal.
It's normal.
Let's talk about the core elements of Ryse and the story, obviously without too many spoilers, but tell us about the story and what we can expect in the game.
Well, when I got involved with Ryse, the story was already sort of formed in the sense that there was a treatment. And the way we approached it was very much like you would approach a movie. So from the get-go, we really wanted to put emphasis on the cinematic experience. So what we did is we said from the get-go, let's do this the way we do a movie. Let's not, you know, have a cool character and some fun gameplay and then try to like shoehorn some story into that. Let's start from the beginning. Let's, you know, design a story, design a character that fits with that story and build a world around that. So that's what we set out to do when I joined. And we basically wrote a full screenplay that, you know, takes you through the journey of Ryse. And the story itself is a story about Marius Titus, who's a Roman legionnaire. And we meet him as he comes back to Rome after basic training, so to speak. And his family gets killed in front of his eyes, and he sort of sets out on a journey to the furthest reaches of the empire to sort of get his vengeance, to exact his vengeance on the barbarians that, you know, kill his family. But there's always a twist.
Yeah, and the cool thing about, I think one of the things that really helps is with Xbox One, we try to give people like Peter the visual ability to tell those stories in a way that wasn't possible before. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about performance capture and things. But, you know, Peter, I remember when he first did his introduction, he stood up and he says, hey, my name's Peter Gornstein, and, you know, I don't want to have video games where it's like, hey, I'm happy to have you here, and like having all robot. He was really big about making sure that the animation and the cinematics and the performance capture really sold the story. So that was an important part of him when he thought about that.
Yeah, I think at my job interview, you guys asked me, so which games do you play? And I was like, I don't play that many games. I'm a film guy. And they're like, we want you. So it was a little bit of an unorthodox sort of introduction to me getting on board the team because I come from television and movies. So
yeah, J.J. Abrams was busy, so.
Well, come on, let's be honest. I took JJ.
But apparently his hair wasn't busy.
Back off me, man. Back off.
Peter, I want to talk a little bit about that. You mentioned the fact that your background is in film and television.
Right.
So you've been working on this project for quite some time. What has it been like with that transition? What are some things that you brought from the television and motion picture background? And what are some of the new things that you're like, wow, I can finally do this? You know, tell us about the different having your feet on both sides of the tracks.
Well, I mean, once I saw what the new CryEngine and Xbox One could do technology-wise, and you know, I sort of realized how big the sandbox is. I mean, the only other place you can get this kind of sort of massive set of toys to play with is if you're doing like massive, large-scale Hollywood, big-budget movies, right? And only a handful of people get to do that. So the second best thing was to do a movie within a game, within a movie, within a game, and make that awesome, right? So the sandbox and what we could do is just amazing. I mean, with the technology and where it's headed,
and there is a
it's
massive
big.
crossover that's happening between Hollywood and the games industry. And that doesn't mean that games as a whole are going to change from what you see now, but more of an extension of what you see on that. I mean, at E3, we sat down with J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg, who came by to see the game, and talked a little bit about them. I think Peter was in for most of that.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, we both had Steven.
He's very excited about
my
that.
Facebook picture with me and Steven is like, my eyes are like this big. I'm like, ah! You know.
And I shoehorned my head right in between the two of them. So
Mike is in there and back, like, ah, you know. So yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, I had a talk with Steven, and he was like, "Yeah, it's really scary to do performance capture," and I was like, "Yeah, it is."
Now, Peter, I want to talk to you, well, actually the entire panel here, because it's vastly different writing and developing a video game that is a motion picture. I mean, we've all been to the movies. We sit in a room just like this. We stare at a screen that's behind us for 2.5 hours, and then you leave. Versus video games, where you, the player, is at the center of the action. And you have no idea when the player comes into a room or an area if they're going to spend 10 minutes in here, which took 2 or 3 months to develop, or is the player just going to go whoop, right through and go to the other side and continue moving on with the story? I mean, it's very different from a storytelling and a technical perspective. Right. Talk about that and the challenges there.
Well, I mean, obviously, you don't have the luxury of putting people in a room and turning off the light and having their complete attention for 2 hours or whatever.
In a linear conversation.
Yeah, in a linear sense. I mean, people can pick up the game, they can leave again, they can come back. There could be weeks between that, there could be days between that. So you really have to make sure that you're always story-wise keeping the audience with you on that trail, right? So you kind of have to be a little less subtle, I would say, sometimes in terms of the story, and you have to recap your story, right? So you don't want to lose your audience and have them forget what the story is about. So we put a lot of emphasis in, without being too on the nose, as we say, just to really sort of play the story in a way that it would be easy for the player to pick it up again in case they've been away for a while.
Tell us about the challenges in story writing for the game.
Well, I mean, what we really tried to do is work it as we do with a movie. I mean, the challenge, of course, being that we have a lot of limitations. It's not when we put characters in there. It's not like we can just say endless amount of characters, or we can do endless stuff. We can do a lot. The technology is really powerful. We can have a lot of cool scenarios, cool effects, cool characters. But we have a lot of technical specifications and stuff that you wouldn't even think about when you were doing a movie, for instance.
For instance?
Yes. A good example. What would be a good example of that?
You don't really deal with so many programmers, though.
Yeah, exactly.
In the film side.
Well, in the films, when you shoot a film and you storyboard, you shoot a film, it's very linear, right? You do the whole process. But when you're doing a game, it's much more sort of back and forth. I'll say, oh, so the scene's like this, and they'll be like, could I say elephants, for instance, coming down this slope or something like that, right? And then people come back, yeah, that's not going to happen for so-and-so reason. They go, yo, it's got to happen, and you got a big back and forth about that. So if that had been a normal film, you would have rented 5 elephants, and you would have had them run down the slope, and that would have been the end of that, right? So there are challenges moving back and forth. It's very like doing video games is sort of more of a 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So it's just like games. It's not a very linear production form. It's back and forth.
But when you're writing for characters, you also have to, that's one of the strongest things. I mean, we've all played games where the game looks great, but the characters kind of suck, and you kind of put your controller down, and you're like, I'm done with this. Whereas we play these amazing emotional experiences, like a BioShock, where you get so invested in the characters, or a Mass Effect, that you have to keep playing. And that's a challenge too, is to create these compelling characters and have them come to life off the screen.
Right. I mean, one of the reasons why I got really excited about the project was that with the new CryEngine and with Xbox One, you could finally get the fidelity and the facial animation in on the characters, so you can develop a really strong emotional connection with the character, and that was hugely important moving forward. I mean, there's nothing worse than watching a character that doesn't show any emotion. I mean, one of the things I really wanted to focus on was like people investing in the character. So we spent a lot of time developing the story, making sure the characters were 3-dimensional, that they had real conflicts, real issues to deal with, not just like I'm saving the world kind of stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk, at E3, we saw one of the characters, Marius. Tell us about some of the other characters and what we can expect in Ryse.
Well, I mean, there's a huge sort of palette of characters. We have the Emperor's family, his brothers, his son. We have like a various series of barbarians. I think that's Marius, the hero. We might want to turn down the light for that, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, who are we looking at here?
This is Marius. That's the main character.
Right.
And this is sort of a later stage in the game where he's sort of become a general. So a lot of the story is about sort of his rise through the Roman army. And of course, he meets a bunch of interesting adversaries that he's got to fight in order to sort of achieve his sort of
Look at that armor.
His general status. Yeah, another one of the challenges that we faced is the Roman experience. It's a pretty well-trodden road. I mean, it's been done a lot of times. So when we sat down, one of the challenges that we really faced was how do we make it Roman but still make it unique? And we decided early on that in order to do that, we really needed to sort of step out of the box. And we early on married, in collaboration with Microsoft, we came up with what we thought was a really strong design profile for Ryse, and we married Art Deco with classical Rome, which I don't think has ever been done before. And it took us a long time to sort of get it, but when I think we finally got it right, we really came up with something that looks uniquely Roman, but also looks very uniquely Ryse.
And we also started off with the game being more of a historically accurate sort of thing. I think Peter went back through that, and given the limitations and where we wanted to go in the future with the story and the elements in here, we moved away from that. But we still inherited a lot of things like the various individuals and historians we brought in to talk about the combat and the look of the armor and certain things that were of that era. And we kind of combined that into our own sort of pieces.
So I just want to point out, these are in-game captures as it exists right now. So do you have another one for us, or do you want to roll the trailer?
We can roll. Wait,
Yeah, we can roll the trailer.
Cool. So this is a brand new trailer that we have not seen. It's Justin, do you want to tell us a little bit about it, or who wants to talk about it?
Which one are we showing? We got two of them.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so we're going to show
Damocles.
they're going to show
We'll show the
switch
Damocles
television.
piece.
So what are we going to see here before we
Well,
roll?
our main character Marius kind of gets some words of wisdom as he sets out on before his father is killed, and his father wants to tell him sort of a moral tale about how he should live his life and what to do. And this is actually a world premiere, so we're really excited to be showing you guys this.
All right, world
it's
premiere
pretty cool.
video right here. Once we
Yeah, there we go. Keep changes. There we go.
That was not it.
Legend says that Damocles was a great warrior. A revered leader in a vast army. During a massive battle, his cowardly commanders abandoned him. When the slain Damocles arrived in the underworld, Nemesis, the goddess of revenge, was enraged at how the brave hero had been treated. She allowed Damocles to return to the world as a vengeful spirit, a ghostly, black-armored centurion, who would hunt down and kill each of the generals who had wronged him. To this day, many commanders carry a dagger with the image of Damocles on the scabbard. This dagger reminds them to always look after their men or risk the Black Centurion returning from the dead to avenge their selfish mistakes.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, we bring maybe the lights up a little more. I want to talk about cinematics. Now, Peter, this is your neck of the woods. Let's talk about what went into making some of the cinematics of Ryse. And we're going to see some later on. You've got a great example, but I want to kind of tee it up.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Crytek and Microsoft teamed up with Imaginarium. I don't know if any of you guys know who they are. It's Andy Serkis. It's this new performance capture studio. So we got to work with some of the best people in the industry, which is basically Andy Serkis is the guy who plays Gollum, in case you don't know. Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. So we really worked with them in trying to push the technology to its furthest limits, and we used the exact same crews and the exact same people that just came off The Hobbit, basically, and Tintin, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was an amazing journey, and we really sort of pushed the actors. We went through a lengthy casting process. I mean, technology And performance capture right now, even for video games, is at a level where you cast the full actor. You basically cast, before you used to get like a stunt guy and a different voice and, somebody else to do, the modeling for the body, and you'd sort of mix it all together. But that's not the way it works anymore. With the new technology, we need to get an actor that's both the voice, the body, and the face, basically. So it's a brave new world. And as we sort of push the technology, we have scenes where we have in Ryse playing, where we have up to, I think, 12 story characters being performance captured at the same time. So it's very much like a huge play when you direct it, right? You have all these actors, they're all being performance captured at the same time, playing the entire scene, and that's a really incredible way
So
to
you're
work.
actually doing it on stage with all the actors there. You're not piecing, you don't take
No.
them all and digitally assemble them at post.
No. What we did, we had all the actors on stage actually playing out the scenes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then what we would do, and what we had the luxury is with virtual camera and with the technology, we could basically set up the camera angles and the FOV and all that stuff. We could do that in post afterwards. So it's tremendously efficient way of working.
Tell us about the technology in terms of, you kind of hinted at a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more about it. And what, is it 12 cameras? They're all red cameras? What's going on there?
No, I think we had 127 performance capture cameras. Then we have 5 reference cameras, and then we had, depending on how many actors were on stage, we had a head cam for each of them.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's an amazing amount of technology.
Well, it's not just incredible, but for anybody who's ever shot video, like, oh, okay, if I shoot a little video, that's nice. But if I shoot 2, oh my God, I got 2 sources, 127 versions of the same scene, and you have to kind of make it all work together and figure out. That's a hard gig.
Yeah, and it's basically guys and girls standing around in a room with cameras all around in spandex and with little light bulbs on them, right? So it takes a certain kind of actors to sort of be able to sort of say, oh, where am I? And that's where it's really good. We have the CryEngine. We could sort of show them on stage. Oh, you're at a palace. The enemy's invading from that side, and there's like boulders flying over you from here, and so that really helped them, and it was a great tool for them.
So do you show the actors some like what we just saw, and obviously some
Yeah.
of so they can kind of get a sense for what their actor
Exactly,
or
and
what
we also actually have that. We'll have big monitors on stage, right? So they can look and see what the physical space is, right, that they're in, and we can sort of tape on the floor where they can move, how far they can move, and yeah, it's pretty exciting.
What were some of the challenges in making Ryse with that? I mean, you kind of talked about the fact you had so many people on stage. Is that one of them?
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. I kind of enjoyed that, but one of the bigger challenges. Yeah, that's a good question. Just getting it all done. Oh, one of the things that was really sort of something you have to get used to is that you have to make sure when you work with the actor that you give them enough spaces for the beats in between, right? Because when they're just performing and it's like a play, they have a tendency to play it too fast. And then when I get back and I have to cut the scene together, there's no beats in between that you would get when you normally film, right? So what I'd have to constantly tell them is like, slow down before you move to the next line, please take a breath, right? So they'd sort of artificially have to sort of create those cuts mentally inside their heads. So that was a big challenge when you have like 12 people on stage and you don't have a monitor on any of them, and you're just kind of walking around in the middle of the performance. You have to sort of like, did they take that break, or do I have to play the scene again, right? So that was a bit of a puzzle.
Tell me about the talent you work with. Was it any famous talent that we would know?
Well, I think if you were a British person, you might know him. A lot of British actors. It's a purely British cast. We have some people from Vikings. We have some people from Game of Thrones, but mainly smaller parts. And then we have some very famous theater actors. We predominantly cast theater actors because we wanted to make sure that they could both stay in the performance for a full scene, and it wasn't just like one-liners that they could cut off, and really be engaged and sort of have that abstraction. And we also really wanted actors that had a strong voice.
Right. Tell us about the production pipeline with Xbox One and how it's improved from perhaps, say, previous platforms you've worked on.
Wow. It's, yeah.
Now, I want to point out, Justin, can you tell some of the games you've worked on in the past?
Yeah. I've worked on Fable, Forza, Age of Empires, War Chiefs, Rise of Nations, Rise of Legends, Sentient, yeah, a bunch. And then
We've heard of some of those.
yeah, I've heard of some of those. And then Two Human. and and
only
Ryse,
1 hour,
son of
Justin.
Rome.
There's only
Okay,
1
yeah,
hour.
sorry about that. So I'm not qualified to talk about the pipeline. I know that there is a pipeline that goes from Alaska to North America, somewhere, something like. But beyond that, like.
How's it made producing or working on Ryse easier than some of the previous titles? You know, when you worked on Xbox 360 and original Xbox.
So I'll tell you at Gen 2 when we're not trying to launch during a platform, because right now launching games on a launch platform. So this is my fourth platform launch. So I've done Xbox One, the 360, Windows Phone, and then now and these are the hardest games to make, mainly because technology is changing underneath you. You're getting a bunch of really great stuff, new stuff, which we'll talk about here when we talk about the Smartglass stuff, and it's trying to get it all, balance it, while at the same time making sure we make a great game that actually comes out and people can actually enjoy.
So we've got a panel on this on Saturday night. If you want to come by, we're going to talk more in depth about some of the technology. But essentially what it matters is, imagine if you were to open up, Windows or Mac or something, and you knew where everything was, and then the next time you went there, everything was moved around. That's kind of what's happening with the development process, because the team that's building Xbox One and what we call the platform is developing. The game teams are over here, and things kind of get out of sync, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, I thought it was going to work this way. Well, it doesn't. So you guys got to. There's a lot of work that's as they said, it's in process. The way I describe it is, imagine trying to build an airplane while it's flying. Seriously, things are changing all the time, right?
And then we have our engine technology on top of that, which we're developing. I mean, working closer with you guys has been, probably the biggest blessing we've had in terms of getting this running on the kits and getting everything working and actually having a hands-on for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you take two technological platforms like that and marry them together. It's funny. It's two of them basically. Sometimes they have battle royales, especially with the Russian guys on your team. Which Russian guys they're kind of scary, but yeah, the ones at Crytek, not all Russians.
Anyway, all right. So again, we'll have more of that on Saturday night, where we're going to talk a little bit more about more of the technology, more of the platform of Xbox One. But we have another asset, gentlemen.
Yeah, we do.
Tell us what we're going to see.
Yeah,
this is a world premiere Comic-Con exclusive, right?
Oh yeah, yep. Again, it is. This is about.
Yeah, we wanted to get some of the guys involved that Peter works very closely with on the performance capture and animation side, and have them give a little bit of backing info.
So this is going to talk about what we.
And we have already spilled barbarian blood. And we know they bleed as we do. Ready! On me!
With Ryse, we set our challenge and said, okay, how can we increase the experience, how can we increase the story and characterization compared to movies?
We really wanted the next-gen experience to be closer to the world of film. We really wanted to achieve that emotional depth for the characters.
But for the first time, we're really allowed to take a lot of these film techniques for building characters and building rigs and apply them to games.
Well, we were fortunate on Ryse. We got to work with Imaginarium, and if you don't know anything about Imaginarium, that's Andy Serkis's new mocap facility. Andy Serkis really revolutionized performance capture.
I'll hold them off until the ship is cleared. No! You have to go. You must live. The Senate will listen to you. They're a commander, they have to.
When casting Ryse, we looked for theater actors, or actors with great amount of theater and television experience.
Now go!
We wanted people that could stay immersed in the scene, the whole scene, because when you do performance capture, you really let the scene run for the entire span of the scene. We don't cut up for individual setups. So it's important to us to really get people that could strongly abstract and really live inside the world that we're creating.
By doing that, we were able to really kind of keep players engaged, keep the story the focus. A lot of people look at the things we have and they see these emotional beats, and without that pre-production, that work that we put in, we would never have grasped that.
So with Ryse, we're able to capture all story characters with full performance capture. That means face, body, and audio. And we had up to 12 characters at the same time on stage giving a performance. That was an incredible experience.
Performance capture allows us truly to allow an actor or a stuntman fully perform the soul of a character, not just body language, but he can implement all his emotions, all his anger, and we can translate that in true virtual life instead of just animation.
They have no honor. These vermin dare to stand against the might of Rome. They deserve to suffer our retribution.
It's more like theatre than film in a way, because there's this 360 capture of all the cameras and from every angle.
You man! Grab the rail!
So you do get that feel of theatre, and it's a raw emotion from every actor all the time.
What you see while you're playing the game, the Marius that you see that you are playing with, I mean, he has over 700 joints, he has over 230 blend shapes in his face. He's got multiple layers of simulation for his cloth, for his leather straps. This is stuff that just wasn't possible on previous hardware generations.
I mean, a traditional last-gen rig, you get, high-end wise, you get 60, 64 joints or bones in a face. And here we just shatter that. I mean, we quadruple that number.
Our target was to increase the emotional quality of gaming.
Ryse is going to be an amazing journey. We're going to merge story and action like you've never seen before.
Wow.
Achieved
Sorry
with
about the sound.
CryEngine.
I bet you guys will never look at a game the same way after you see something like that, right? Wow. That was most impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting because the little plume of smoke that's right there at the very end that we saw, there was more processing power in just that plume of smoke than could be achieved on the Xbox 360 alone.
Altogether.
Altogether.
Just that little plume of
Yeah,
smoke.
just that plume of smoke in there.
So there you go. There's a little factoid for you. I did not know that. So let's talk a little bit about Smartglass, Justin.
Oh, Smartglass.
So Smartglass, those of you guys using Smartglass with any Xbox 360 games now, it's awesome. I mean, we've seen some games do some really interesting things about it. It gets way better with Xbox One.
Yes.
I think, and I'm underselling it, aren't I?
Yeah, no. So it's funny when now with a lot of that stuff being built into the platform, we had a real opportunity, and there's a couple games that are showcasing that now with launch. Dead Rising's doing some really great stuff with their integration, but we actually, with it being integrated in Xbox One, we really wanted to build something that again accompanied the Ryse experience. And so what we did is we took the entire Ryse UI and we separated it out as a Smartglass app.
That's user interface.
Yeah, user interface. Sorry. Sorry. Talking to
Acronyms.
Yeah, acronyms. So with the TLA and the SDA, we mixed the UI with the MLA, and we got the SBC. So if you get that, we're cool. Thanks.
All right.
No.
Now in English.
No. What I'm saying is that we took. So what this means is that now you don't have to be connected to the console to interact with the game. You're like, oh, well, Justin, why is that remotely interesting? Well, think of it as, what if you're watching television or you're playing a game of Dead Rising, you want to set up a multiplayer match, or your wife's watching, Spartacus, and you want to set up a multiplayer match. The game's almost over, so you pick up your Smartglass, basically set up your multiplayer game, and then when it's ready, it pops in, and you're good to go. You don't have to load the game, set up your matches. It all basically happens because your app isn't attached. The other stuff that gets interesting is with one of the things that we're talking about with the Ryse UI, which is called the timeline, which you can think of as a strategy guide that it basically tracks along with you. You might want to jump on the timeline, figure out where your friends are, check out any game DVR videos.
So I just want to point out what we're seeing on screen here is basically Smartglass for Ryse.
Yes,
is what
correct.
the current build of what you guys are showing.
This is what the current build is showing. So again, yeah, you can sit there, you can see where your friends are. So I'm my only friend. in this case. And then I can check out the details of my friends, see what they're going. But I mean, this is all stuff I don't have to be connected to the console for anymore. So, you know, whether somebody, I want to check to see if I'm actually where I am, I can do all that stuff. At the same time, I can look to see, you know, hey, I'm going to come back. I want to check out and figure out what I'm going to do that night, what achievements are ahead of me, what secrets.
So I think the point is that you can actually pull this up. You're sitting at work, you pop open Smartglass, and you can start diddling around with Ryse, or you know, some other titles as well.
Yep.
So you don't have to. Well, that's what he means by you don't have to be connected like you do today in terms of directly to the console. It connects up to the Xbox Live service, so it's a much richer experience.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that with the stuff that the story elements that we've built, that Crytek's built in, things like their digital, they have an in-game comic, things like music and dog tags and other story elements. Now we have rich experience. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's all tied in, so you could totally look at that stuff, view it in its glory without necessarily having to worry about doing it while you're on.
But it's not a forced experience though either, which is and it's a huge step up from what we saw on the 360 as well, with having the integrated menus in there and a great supplement.
So this is really just to let everyone in the room know. This is really a platform, and we'll talk. Justin's actually coming to the event on Saturday night. The session on Saturday night is going to talk more about Smartglass. That's the framework, one of the elements that we built for Xbox Live. And I would want to point out, Justin, I know for a fact you're on my friends list, so I should be showing up there, right?
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are on my friends list, Larry. Yeah, and then beyond that, it's also the other stuff too. Is that, you know, we talked a little bit about the multiplayer, which we'll talk about at Gamescom. I'm the multiplayer producer. I'm excited about that. But I mean, it's just we have some very great. Content and stuff that'll be in here. In fact, one of the big Comic-Con exclusives is actually built into this. Which is we have a digital comic that is it should be, Rod, is it up? Is it working? Oh, it's working. So if I click on this link.
This is actually live code.
Oh, I'm not connected. Oh, that was terrible.
You need to be connected.
Yes, I have to be connected. Yeah, which is working where if you look, this is done by IDW and Sammy, Makonnen, who's of Hellraiser and Dead World, did the art for this. It's an interactive comic that's online. As you go through it, it's really cool. You should check it out. I'll bring it up here in a minute. But you can find gold that is actually in the comic. There's gold hidden throughout of it that you can use to spend in the actual real game. So as you go through,
you can bank it and wait until it launches, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Now, if you're not interested in the virtual, we have real comics.
Yes. We actually have. Yeah, we have real comics that we'll be giving out.
Let me get a copy of those. So when you leave, make sure you pick one of these up. These are really, really limited editions. Like they basically just printed it.
And this is Crytek's PR manager, Frenzy.
So this is
Thank you, Frenzy.
Woo! Thanks, Frenzy.
Give her a hand. Woo! Frenzy!
So you can see this right here. It's really a beautiful comic. And again, you can only get these here at Comic-Con. Of course, the digital version will be available everywhere else, but you can get this here. So we'll have those queued up at the exit as well. I want to kind of bounce back a little bit and talk back about combat. Mm-hmm. How does the gameplay and the cinematics, how do they kind of flow together?
I think that's kind of a mixed question between Peter and I, and I'm sure he fights with the gameplay guys, and I don't like that, and he likes this. But it was really having the flow between the cinematics and the gameplay and the action sequences flowing together with one another, and not really breaking that immersion. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of making those seamlessly work together, not only in the cinematic pieces, but also in the combat that we've built into the game as well.
I want to talk, coming out of E3, anybody who was following some of the press out of E3, there was some questions about the QuickTime events. Mm-hmm. Can we talk about those and what they mean and so forth? Let's talk about that.
Right. Thanks, Larry. So yeah,
I didn't say they were going to be easy questions.
I know, I didn't think so. So in terms of QuickTime events and what we've been talking about with this is, so what we showed at E3 was really like a small slice of the combat and what the final combat's going to be. There was a big focus on the visuals and tech coming into E3 and actually getting it up and running on the boxes and having it playable for E3.
Kind of like because of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
Everything's gotta
exactly. I
happen.
mean, the whole plane flying bit and, you know, building a plane while it's flying is, it's a tough thing to do. So we looked at the combat and we said, you know, there's a lot of systems that are not finished in here yet, so we had to come back and find a small slice that we could bring into the game itself. And we did that, and you know there was a few negative things on it and some positive things on it. And we've seen people on the floor playing it, and we've had a very positive reaction to that. But at the same time, I don't think we've done a great job at explaining where we were going with the combat in general and where that's kind of going to. So without, you know, dragging this out or having that and having any visuals to show at this point, but as Justin was saying, later on at Gamescom and PAX this year, we decided not to do a brand new demo, but focus on working on that piece so that we'll have something a lot more robust to show on the combat and exactly how it works.
Awesome. All right, we're running out of time, but I want to make sure we get to your questions. So there's a microphone there in the middle, and if you have a question, step up to that, and we shall do a Q&A. No, don't be shy. Don't be shy.
You can just come up and talk direct.
These must be all the people Glenn paid.
Step right. If you can tell us your name.
My name is Ryan. With a lot of games where you're going back in history, the maps have been kind of small. In this game, are there multiple maps? Is it a free roam map, or is it a very story-based linear game?
More on the single-player side, are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, it's a cinematic action adventure game, so I think it's not open world. It's not that you can go anywhere. We keep people on a path, and then we give you, you know, choices and decisions that you'll make in the action as you progress through it. I mean, the maps they're quite large.
Yeah, I mean,
terms of what
you have
through.
lots of freedom to sort of roam around and do stuff, but you know, we make sure that if you start at A, you get to B, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next question.
Hi, I'm Beth. I am the Twitter handle for Xbox, the official handle, and we asked our 1.5 million followers if they had questions for you, and they did. So the one I chose to ask is, James B. wants to know, are there any fantasy elements in the game?
Yeah, there's a story fantasy element. I mean, the spirits and gods throughout the ancient world were very prevalent, and we do have some spirit guides that kind of guide the player and sort of play a game with the players throughout the game.
All right. Thank you. Next question. Hi, what's your name?
My name is Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
Can we cut that out?
I have a question. It's about if I have different ways to play the game. For example, if I make this decision, it will affect the future of the game.
Mass Effect.
I don't believe so. No. I mean, Peter's the cinematic and story guy, but no, there's no. I mean, we're not doing a branching story path. You're probably like thinking like what Justin said with like Mass Effect and things like that.
No, it's a much more linear story.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Peter's not that good.
Thank you.
Come on, Peter. Branching dialogue.
I knew that was coming, Justin. I knew that was coming.
Hi.
Hello.
What's your name?
My name is Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
I had a historical question. What time period does the game take place historically?
Great question.
Well, it's not a historically accurate game, and we have fictional characters mixed in with sort of references to real characters. But what we started out with, I guess, is like a late Roman Empire, right? So it's sort of at the beginning of the decline of the Roman Empire.
Thank you.
The beginning of the end.
Yeah, the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning, or something.
The early 1960s.
Something
Hi there.
around that.
Hey, name's James.
James.
I have more of a developmental question. With the original infrastructure of always online with the console, were there any setbacks when that was changed up from an outcry? Were you guys looking for like?
That's a Microsoft question.
Yeah, Justin, let's hear it.
In short, no.
Thank you very much.
In short, no. Next question.
Between the comic and the trailer you showed us, we're seeing an awful lot of this Centurion in the black armor. Are we going to be seeing more of him in-game, perhaps as one of the spirit guides that was said about earlier?
We could tell you, but there's a guy there to have to kill you. So
we have gladiator fights at the Hyatt.
We do, actually.
No, I mean,
I guess I can reveal
Yeah,
a little
do it.
bit here. Yeah, okay, I'll reveal something. I'm good at that, I heard. There could be a chance that you might be playing a black armored centurion at some point in the game. Yes, that could happen.
In short, yes.
In short, in short, no. I'm just kidding.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, with the multiplayer, where are you planning on going with that? Like,
So Roman Coliseum, not the way you think. More at Gamescom.
okay.
Yeah, there'll be.
So can you talk a little bit about the Coliseum angle? Because that's actually really interesting.
No, I can't. I would love to. I would love to, but that guy Ryan, who's
See him?
see that?
Yeah.
He's like, no.
He's got basically what happens at Microsoft is we get these collars installed in our neck, and then if we say the wrong thing, I just bleed. And I have a family and kids. They're cute.
Did I mention there's free comics?
We'll have some good variation in there. At Gamescom and PAX, we're going to have a ton to show on that, especially in going deeper into the combat.
It'll be awesome.
Awesome.
Because I worked on it.
Well, listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for coming here. Make sure you get your free comic. If you want to play Ryse, we've got a build over at the Xbox Lounge right at the Hyatt. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.